Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paupcast. I'm Caden, and this is Mitchell.
Hello.
We're going to talk about Pauper and a bunch of other bullshit we want to talk about.
Oh,
yeah. So welcome. My name is Caden. I've been playing cards since I was a sophomore in high school. I'm now a junior in college for a while, like 4 or 5 years in there. I've been a competitive Pokemon player most of that time, although that's kind of iffy right now, not gonna lie. Pokemon's in a bad state, as me and Mitchell will probably rant about at some point. But I started playing Pauper this summer because Mitch got me into it, and we enjoy it so much and are having such a good time with it. We've been wanting to make a podcast, so we thought this would be a fun podcast to do.
It's very fun.
A little bit about me. I guess I'll go more into it later. I'll let Mitch talk.
So I've been collecting cards for a really long time. I started playing competitive cards in like 6th or 7th grade.
Veteran.
Yeah, I was playing competitive Yu-Gi-Oh though.
Oh God.
It was a different story. And
then podcast is over. It's done. This get him out of here.
I was playing Magic at the same time. A lot of competitive. Got more into Pokemon in high school, and then kind of fell off because, it's
a tough world out here.
Typically, I like to stray towards more aggro explosive strategies with some grinding or like stacks pieces. That's just what I like. A lot of really interesting 2-card combos, 3-card combos, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm kind of the opposite of Mitch, which is going to work out well. I'm like a control player at heart, even though I'm probably not very good at playing control, I'd say. I've got a lot of work to do. But I really like intricate decks. I like things that make the game complicated. I like making the game like very deep and like a puzzle. I like decks that are kind of like puzzles, and you have to unsolve the puzzle. Which is like a lot like Andrea Mengucci. Like that's if I had to like give myself a player comp, like I like the
very
style of decks that
mentality.
Mengucci plays. Yeah, I like the style of decks that Mengucci plays. Like Izzet Tides and like as you'll hear shortly, I play Jeskai Ephemerate and Pauper. So I like stuff like that. So I like intricate control combo kind of style of decks that are very intricate. So that's what I like to play.
And I have my fair share of those too, but like
not nearly
as many.
I have my aggro decks too.
Yeah.
I like playing basically like the decks I like to play are like I want to always be in control of the tempo.
Yeah.
Whether that is grinding a game out to a halt and playing at my pace,
or going as fast
as you can.
Yeah.
I like mid range piles too though. Like if I was to play modern, I'd want to play Jund. Like an old
Jund looks like so much fun in modern.
And like my favorite player of all time is Reed Duke, so I just love watching Reed Duke play fucking Jund because he's the best Jund player to ever exist. But anyway, let's talk about Pauper. So tonight we went to our first Pauper local night.
Yeah.
I think all of us had very different experiences. So I think that's at least winning and losing wise. So our friend Yang also came with us. He's not on the podcast. Shout out Yang. So I guess we can start. Yang went 3-0 with Borrow Synthesizer.
He did go 3-0. He was the top. He was
the number one player. Mitch finished third.
I finished third.
Playing Esper Affinity, which is an interesting deck that we'll talk about. And then I went the big old 0-3, baby, with Jeskai Ephemerate. It was a rough night for me. I've had some bad draws, some bad mulligans, but it is what it is. Mitch watched my last game. That was brutal. We'll get into that.
It was brutal. For frame of reference, there was an 11-player tournament. So I took third, Yang took first, and Caden took 11th.
Let's go, baby. Starting strong. Already showing the audience I'm a dog shit player. Let's go.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun. We saw a lot of different decks. I unfortunately got the round one bye.
It was a really weird meta, not what I would have expected.
Yeah, I didn't think that we were going to see Tron.
Well, we'll get there. So, I guess, do you want to start with who we played, how it went, and then we'll go from there? Or do you want to do or do you want to do the meta breakdown first? I think we should do the meta breakdown
probably first so people get a good idea of what's...
Yeah, so there was what? There was 2 versions of Tron. Yeah. One that was more traditional, playing like Ulamog's Crushers, playing the like big splashy spells you'd expect.
The other one was really cool.
So we're gonna pull up this list. So if you see us clicking and hear all that, we're trying to pull up a list and take a look. But this was a altar deck.
This one.
So the combo in this deck is you get all the Tron pieces, you play a bunch of artifacts, and then you play Ashnod's Altar, which is a 3-drop artifact? 2-drop?
It should be 3,
right? Yeah, so 3. It's a 3-drop. You sacrifice a creature and you add 2 colorless to your pool. Very powerful effect. So you're playing a bunch of like the value Pauper artifacts that you see in a lot of decks. The Candy Trails.
Candy
that's a
Trails
new card
are really
that we're
good.
We're going to talk about Lembas, which is a new card. We got to talk about Star Spear.
Yeah.
And then you play Mere Retriever. This is a fun one. So this is a 2-drop 1/1 artifact creature mirror, and whenever it's put into the graveyard, you can return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. So basically, you can just get infinite sack triggers.
It's a staple in any artifact deck.
Yeah, me and Mitch love artifact decks. This is an
I
artifact
am the artifact deck boy.
Okay, all right. Well,
I mean, come on.
Yeah. I'm more of a blink guy, but
yeah. Well, still, it's really good. And then you play tutor cards like Mirror Kinsmith. Go grab the Mirror Retriever. The combos between with Ashnod's Altar and Mirror Retriever, so you sack it, you get the mana back, and then you grab a different Mirror Retriever with that and play it again instantly. And that infinite combos with Golem Foundry. When you cast an artifact spell, put a charge counter on it, remove 3 charge counters, put a 3/3 Golem into play.
Yeah, so you make infinite charge counters, you make infinite 3/3s. It's quite strong.
Very good.
I think another thing that's really cool about this deck that when I was listening to the guy talk about is like against decks like mine that are really grindy, it has a really cool kind of second game plan with the makeshift munitions. This is a big Pauper card. Let's talk about this guy. So it's a 2-drop enchantment, 1 in red, and you pay 1 and you sacrifice an artifact or a creature and you deal 1 damage to any target.
It's so good.
So if you can get this thing to resolve on a board against a control deck of any kind, like that will over time just kill somebody very easily.
Yep.
And you're playing a ton of artifacts that you want to sack anyway, so it works really well in the deck. It's really cool. There's also another card that I didn't really think about that came out of Wilds of Eldraine, Crystal Grotto.
It's very good.
I really didn't think about that, but with all the like bounce lands people are playing and like all the different bounce, because there's a big theme in Pauper of bouncing stuff and like getting value back from cards you already had. And Grotto is really cool because it just comes into play. You scry one. It taps for colors, but you can filter into it for 1 to make 1 mana of any color. So in a Tron deck, you're gonna have so much mana, and you just need the filtering. So that's really cool. One thing that I think is interesting is at least the list we're looking at that did well, and again we're using MTG decks, so this isn't true of every deck, but like 2 Ancient Stirrings seems really weird to me. That's
Ancient Stirrings?
That is a Tron staple in Modern. If you've ever watched Modern Tron, this is a 4 of in every Tron.
Yeah, that should be a 4
so
of.
it's really weird, and they're playing like 3 Weather the Storm, which I think is also really. I mean, that's a burn tag.
I mean, but burn is
to
like
play
the deck.
Yeah, but like to play that many and not play like stuff like Ancient Stirrings for your consistency seems really weird. Mono Blue Fairies was there, and it was a lot stronger than I expected it to be. Yeah. But I also did not understand how good Spellstarter Sprite was.
Oh yeah, because I thought understand how the card
I thought it was pay like. For every fairy you had to pay that amount X. To stop the counter, but it's just counter it if you have that X fairies.
It's so good.
Which is really good. Really crazy good. Especially when you're like can bounce it back to your hand all the time and stuff with all the like ninjutsuing and stuff.
Oh my god, it's crazy.
This is definitely a Caden deck. Like I'll tell you right now, like, I would build Mono Blue Tempo. Like this is a really cool
seems
list.
Like fun.
You get Mugenic Growth, which is just crazy. Like Mugenic Growth is your like Mengucci played Tempo, and I remember he said like Mugenic Growth is your Force of Will, because when they go like with Casting of Fire, with there's so many like ding 1 damage at a creature in Pauper, and you just go Mugenic Growth, grow it. I counter your spell essentially. I get to keep my thing. It's bigger in combat. It's just such a good card.
The guy that you played against that was playing it, he told me, or I overheard that the Mutagenic Growth was in his sideboard. It wasn't even in the main deck, which
is interesting.
I thought that was very interesting because I think it should definitely be the main deck.
I think so, but
because it's. Like, listen.
But,
it's a pump.
He's a local guy, and looking at the local meta, there's a lot of, like,
that's
combo,
true.
Like, Tron. Like, I could see putting in the sideboard in a meta like that.
That's true, yeah. He knows the meta, obviously.
And he was talking to me about, he cut Spell Pierces for a new card. Spellstarter, yeah, Mitchell's right. So, this is a 1 in a blue, counter target spell unless its controller pays 2, plus an additional 1 for each fairy you control.
That's so
which
good.
I think is really good.
That's so good.
Really, really, really powerful. I mean, WoW had a lot of fairy support, so you'd expect fairies to get better. I think looking at a card right next to it, Snare Master Sprite, that also looks like it could definitely make a big impact in Pauper. That seems quite strong. So this guy is a 1 blue 1/1 flyer, and when it ETBs you can pay 2 and put tap a target creature and put a stun counter on it, which is
stun counters are pretty
good in Pauper.
Yeah.
They can be pretty good in Pauper. There's a lot of like activated effects and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. So there's definitely some interesting cards for at least for fairies. I know that
the fairies deck seemed like they got a lot more support. Brian Barrow and Truder, you're telling me before that it seems a lot better. Like you didn't think it would be as good as it was.
Literally shut down my Kenku's, dog.
That's crazy.
Like when I was like, oh, I get a Kenku, like I'm just gonna make, and like every time I made the 3/3 and every time I went to go block, he would just like make it a 1/3 and like shut it down. For reference, for those of you who don't know who Kenku Artificer is, this is a major card in Pauper. This is one of the best.
It's
bombs
one of
in
the.
Pauper.
It's why Affinity works.
It's
right
why
now. It's like
a lot of
that's
decks
why
work.
Affinity is tied for number one in that format.
Yeah. So Kenku Artificer. This is a big one. So this is a 2 colorless and 1 blue creature bird artificer, and when it enters the battlefield, you put 3/1/1 counters on up to 1 target non-artifact creature, and it becomes a 0/0 flyer.
Non-creature artifact.
Non-creature artifact. That's a big deal. But you're like, why is that good? Well, everyone is playing the bridges,
indestructible bridges.
the indestructible tap.
So you just get an indestructible,
so you get an indestructible
3/3
flyer.
It's insane.
Really good. Just very powerful.
Multiple cards shut that down, like Defile or any exile effect, but like those are so few and far between. Edicts,
so,
that's
like,
true.
The mono black controller deck I played against tonight, that again we'll get into, like a lot of times you'd go cast down the non-Kenku creature Chainer's Edict, and it was rough.
But yeah, that's a really important card to the meta. Some other really important cards to the meta.
Obviously, Counterspell, Brainstorm.
The aggro is like it's over half of the meta. And
so if you're a guy that if you're a person that really likes to play aggro decks, Pauper is the format for you.
Yep.
It is, or if you like blinky value engines, also the format for you, because there is Borosynth, there's Jeskai Ephemerate, there's Orzhov Ephemerate.
There's so many of them.
There's, I mean, even Affinity has a lot of like bounce / additional, like there's just a lot of the decks are focused on either killing you really really fast like Burn, or value engines with your really good like value artifacts / creatures. That's really the name of the game in Pauper.
There's the most prevalent decks I'd say probably Affinity and Burn and Boros and
Synth
is really important.
Those would be
to
my
the meta.
top 3 decks for sure.
Both versions of Affinity are very good. The Azorius one is very combo dependent, and it really depends on all that glitters being good.
First let's talk about all the glitters being a common. Okay, that's a new thing with Commander Masters, and that is a huge meta change.
Here, I'll pull up the text.
Because before all the glitters came out, the only Affinity list that existed was Grixis, and you would play makeshift munitions like we talked about, and then a bunch of good artifacts with counter spells and lightning bolts and stuff like that. And you get like but now with all the glitters, a lot of the Affinity lists are just like really really aggro, trying to get all the glitters out on an evasive creature as fast as possible with counter magic.
So all the glitters itself is 1 under white enchantment aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact and or enchantment you control. This at face value doesn't seem like a perfect card, but the amount of artifact lands you play and bridges and blood fountain for 1 mana, you get 2 artifacts on board.
The whole name of the game with the Affinity decks is I'm gonna get a whole lot of
you need
artifact
to spew
value,
as many artifact value,
and then all of a sudden even turn 2
because
fairly consistently, because me and you have play tested a lot with this Affinity list, like fairly consistently, if you have an all the glitters turn 2 or turn 3, it's a 6 or 7 power creature at least.
Yep.
Which is messed up. Like when you have an Ornithopter that's flying, or if you have a Gingerbrew that you can make unblockable, messed up, man.
Yeah, no.
Messed up. Ban the card. Okay.
Don't ban it.
We are starting the rant. Ban all that glitters. Okay. I've been saying this for months.
All that glitters is insane in this meta. I played the Tron Ulamog's Crusher deck where you ramp out to get Ulamog's Crusher as fast as you can. I went Ornithopter turn 1, and then turn 2 I did Blood Fountain into use the blood, and then I got all that glitters, and I also had like a kill spell for his Crusher, and I had blood fountains in hand.
Had it all.
I basically hit him with an Ornithopter.
Had his cake and could eat it too.
Yeah, yup. Ornithopter is so good for all that glitters. But like that being said, the Tron decks are like okay and all.
They're pretty, but based off the metadata, they are not very.
They're not meta defining.
Because in this format, the problem with something like Tron is this isn't modern. You don't have the payoffs for Tron that you do in modern. Like in modern, the second you get Tron, you can go right into a Karn, get your best card, like best artifact out of your sideboard. Like you have a whole game plan for that for every matchup. You have. You have the Eldrazi's, although I don't think most of them play the Eldrazi's anymore. But like you have a ton of payoffs in modern, whereas like here, you really don't. Like there isn't a lot of like big colorless mana payoffs besides Ulamog's Crusher, which is, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's an 8/8 for 8 with all
with Annihilator too.
But the problem is that it's very easy to get rid of. Is the problem?
Yeah. I don't think we really need to talk about burn. That's
Burn is pretty much what it looks like in
any other format.
It does play a little more of a value style engine with like candy trails and experimental synthesizers and like reckless impulses to keep it going, but it's a pretty standard. You got your swift spears, you've got lightning bolts, lava darts. You got all the chain lightnings. You have all of the most of the the staple burn.
All
cards.
The basic staple burn cards. We can kind of talk about our own decks that we played tonight more. You can talk about your list.
Yeah. So, my big 03 night. Yeah, really, I'm sure the crowd just can't wait to hear about
your 03.
03 deck. Yeah. So, I played Jeskai Ephemerate. For those of you who don't know what that deck is, Ephemerate is an incredibly powerful instant that says for 1 mana you blink target creature, which means that it leaves the battlefield and comes back right away.
The card also says rebound, which is very important to the strategy.
Hold on, we'll get there. But what everyone's like, well, it just comes back. That's what's so good about that is you're abusing ETB/LTB triggers, which is enter the battlefield and leaves the battlefield. So there are many creatures in Magic that say when it enters the battlefield, do this, like get a target instant sorcery back or draw 2 cards or something like that, right? So the whole point is that you get your ETB trigger off the creature, and then you get additional value for 1 more mana doing it again.
Yep.
And it also has an incredibly powerful. What was it? A keyword? Is rebound a keyword?
Yeah, it is a keyword.
So what rebound does is at the beginning of your next upkeep, you get to cast it again from exile for free. And this is really broken if you have something like an Okeomancer or an Ardent Elementalist in Pauper on the battlefield, because essentially how it works is you can Ephemerate, target the Okeomancer, the Ephemerate will resolve, it'll go to the graveyard. The Okeomancer will re-enter. The Okeomancer says when it enters the battlefield, return target instant or sorcery, you get your Ephemerate back for free.
It's so good.
So that essentially becomes an infinite combo of infinite Ephemerates. Obviously, like not like
as long as it's not interrupted.
But yeah, as long as it's not interrupted. But that's why you play a lot of counter Magic. Like this is, in my opinion, from playing it, it is a control deck. It is a creature combo control deck.
From watching you play it, is very much a control deck, and then you have your creature combo that is like what? Kanku?
If this happens, I win the game.
Yeah,
basically, it's like if I ever get a battlefield with a Mole Drifter, an Ephemerate, and an Okeomancer, you've lost. If you don't mess with me, I will win the game because I will get back every counter spell ever. I will counter every single one of your spells. I will draw my whole deck. I will Kenku, I'll put 9 power in the air, indestructible, out of nowhere, and I will kill you.
Yeah, I've been in that position so many times.
I will, legitimately, this deck is built to lock you out of the game.
Yep.
I am going to lock you out of the game.
Not even mentioning that the Rhino.
We'll get to.
It's a very interesting card.
Some key cards I would say in the deck are obviously the Okeomancers that get back the Ephemerates. That is a blue, and 2. There's also Ardent Elementalist, which is the same thing in red, but it's red and 3.
Oh, no, is it red and
3?
Oh, nice.
And it's a 2/1 instead of a 1/2, which is slightly worse for this deck, but it's still good because it gets around Pyroblast, and like you want to have the diversity so you don't get sideboarded as easily. You play Mole Drifter, which is an incredibly good Magic card. So Mole Drifter is a 4/1 2/2 flying elemental, and when it enters the battlefield, you draw 2 cards. And I know what you're thinking, Caden, 5 mana. That's
5 mana.
Awful. It's a 2/2. Well, it has this funny little keyword called Invoke. So how Invoke works is you pay an alternate casting cost, and when you do, you sacrifice it as soon as it comes into play. So you play it like a sorcery, essentially.
Yep.
But the funny thing is when you have Ephemerate...
Yeah, Invoke goes onto the stack.
Right. So you go, I will invoke my Mole Drifter. You put the draw 2 stack first.
Yep.
So you draw your 2 cards first, and then you go, in response to the Evoke trigger, I will Ephemerate it, and it does this funny little thing that it loses the Invoke. Because it just comes back into play as the normal creature.
Yep.
Which is really broken.
It is so
essentially for 4 mana, you're going to draw 4 cards and have a 2/2 flyer.
Yep.
That's insanely good value.
It's so good.
So that is like kind of the main goal of the deck. That's the main draw engine and support engine, and then you play a lot of the like great staples of Pioneer. Like you get
Pauper.
Brainstorm. You get Brainstorms. You get Counterspell. You get Lightning Bolt. A lot of lists are playing Skred. I am playing Skred as well. Skred is a 1 mana instant that deals damage to target creature based on the amount of snow permanents you have. So you play all snow lands. Besides the bridges, of course, they're not snow, so you kind of have to navigate that, but that's fine. And the way you get your snow lands out is you have this really broken card.
It's so good.
So there's this funny little sorcery called Cleansing Wildfire. Okay, this thing's a powerhouse at Zendikar Rising.
It is insane.
It is 1 in red. Destroy target land. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card and put it on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle, and then you draw a card. And I know what you're thinking. You're blowing up your own land. That's awful. Well, when you try to target a bridge that's indestructible, what ends up happening is it doesn't destroy the land, but it sees that you attempt to destroy the land, so you go get a land from your deck, put it into play tapped, and you get to draw cards. So you both simultaneously get to ramp and cantrip for 2 mana. You basically get to draw 2 cards for 2 mana, except for one's a land guaranteed onto the battlefield tapped. It's really good. So this helps you ramp out and keep your card draw up enough to get you to your combo, because this combo costs a lot of mana, and you're going to have to keep mana up for counter magic, because if you go to ephemerate a creature and they kill it in response, you get 2 for 1. You both lose your creature, and the ephemerate loses its target, and it fizzles, and it goes away forever. So you have to be very careful with this deck about your timing and about when you decide to try to do stuff, because you can get burned really bad, and this is a deck that rides the line very thinly. Like, you get messed up in any kind of way, or if you get blown out, it's over. Like, it's done. Like, you lose your ephemerate, you lose your creature, it's wraps. It's done. So it's a very intricate deck. It's very tough.
There's many cards that make the deck work, but I feel like there's one card specifically that really makes the deck shine and made it way more possible.
Baby. So this is a really, really powerful common out of Lord of the Rings, and these like cycling cards,
they're
the
so
troll,
good.
the Omnifant, all of them have been the Ent. All of them are incredibly playable in every format. Modern is seen play with them. Legacy is seen play with them. Because what makes these cards so powerful is you get a good card, but it also cycles to fix your lands. Because it's not basic land cycling.
It's just island
that
cycling,
type,
or
whatever color
cycling.
Spell it is, that cycling. And that doesn't mean you have to get a basic. It just has to have that basic land type. And that is a big difference. So Lorien Revealed is a huge deal for this deck, because you're playing 3 colors in Pauper, and there's not a lot of good color fixing at all. Like, you get the tap land bridges, and that's it.
I mean, you got Cleansing Wildfire, but that's like...
But, like, you have to have the bridge
you need more
to do that, though, is the problem. So, you can't get the bridges off of Lorien Revealed, because they don't have the land type, but it gets the other ones, and that's what matters. So, in the Jeskai deck, you play 1 Glacial Floodplain, which is the Snow Tap Azorius land from Keldheim, and then you play the Izzet one as well. And those fix your mana perfectly. Like, you will get your mana right. It counts towards Skred. It is perfect. It is, and if you're in a bad spot and you have 5 open mana, you can just draw 3 cards, and that is a big deal in my deck. This deck just needs cards. You have to win the card advantage race. If you do not, you are never winning with this deck. It's just not how this deck works. It's like, this whole deck is designed to 1-for-1 with your opponent. Just keep 1-for-1ing with them, and then you're going to draw a bunch of cards, and then you're just going to blow them out with card advantage. Like, that is the whole point of the deck. There's a lot of, like, sideboard cards. We won't get too much into that, I think, today. I'm just going to go right into my matchup so Mitch can start talking about his stuff. Sure. Because I've been going for a while. But round 1, I played against the Fairies player. He was a super nice player. He was a local guy. He clearly goes a lot. Game 1, I had a really slow hand. I had, like, double Cleansing Wildfires and a couple tap lanes and, like, a Lorien Revealed, and I just got blown out by Fairy Speed. I was on the draw, which is really bad in that matchup, because Fairies wants to be on the play really bad because they just get to start smoking you. So, like, I got decimated. Spellsarter Sprite is so tough for my deck, dude. It's so bad.
It seems like it's a problem. Now that we know how the card actually reads.
It's a really big problem. Like, it's really tough. Because, like, you try to go to kill any of their creatures or counter it, they not only put out another body, but then they counter your spell, and they get to keep all their body. It's just really tough.
So good.
So being on the draw on that's really bad. So I lost game 1, and then game 2 I got blown out again. I went to, like, Kenku to try to get a big flying blocker to try to shut them down, and they just snapped it back to my hand, which is a 2-mana instant that you return target creature to their hand, and then you untap 2 lands. You get to play it for free, basically, if you do it during your main phase. So that was tough. Round 2, I played against a mono burn player. I don't want to throw shade at anybody, because everyone's, at different levels of playing the game and how much they care, but my opponent was definitely not playing as optimal as they could have. Like, they were missing triggers off of experimental synthesizers. I went to go counter a impulse draw spell. So they play Reckless Impulse and Burn, which is you exile the top 2 cards of your library, and then you can play them up until your next turn. And my opponent cast it immediately, like, went to resolve it. Like, it started picking up the cards out of his deck, and I was like, wait, I'm going to counter it. So that was really awkward, but I was super nice about it. I didn't even call it judge, because I'm like, it's a local Pauper night.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
But, like, it was really awkward, and so game 1, I just got I mean, I didn't keep a hand to be burned. You're not. So I just got smoked game 1. Game 2, I got to put in all my Hydro Blast, all my Blue Elemental Blast. I got to bring in my Dawnbringer. Right? Like, I got all my good stuff in the matchup. I grinded. I had like 3 Elemental Blasts in my opening hand. I just grinded them out. Got a bunch of like lands out with Kenku and just started beating face. Killed them. And then game 3 was super close. By the end of the game, I was at 2 life to their like 11. I had 2 lands that I had made 3/3 flying indestructibles. They had 2 Monastery Swift Spears they made a 2/2 off the Synthesizer because you can like stack the Synthesizer, make a 2/2 Vigilance.
Oh yeah. That's good. We don't really see Yang do that.
So it was really close. It got to a point where I had no cards left in my hand besides a Lorien Revealed, and I had 5 mana, so I just tapped out, drew 3 cards. I had Counterspell, Chaos and Ephemerate. Not to be kidding, those were my 3, which just wins that matchup on the spot if I get to all of them to resolve. And like I just forever Counterspell everything they own, and I just outgrind them. But I just needed them to whiff 1 more top deck, and they top decked a Galvanic Blast to kill me.
Bro.
So that's unfortunate, but that's how the burn matchup goes. Like
that's rough.
It's a very bad matchup for my deck. It just is. They're way too fast. They can kill all my creatures.
Especially if you don't get to play.
Yeah, no, and I was on the draw again. I was on the draw all 3 rounds, which is really bad for this deck. You really need to be on the play.
Yep.
So that was no good. So I lost in 3 there. That was unfortunate. But my opponent was really nice, really cool. So it was all good. And then my final round, I played against this really cool deck that I haven't seen a lot of until recently. This Golgari Control deck.
Never
We're gonna
heard
have to
of
talk
it before
about this.
tonight.
I do a lot of database digging.
I bet you do.
I'm that kind of guy. And I had not seen this on the radar all summer. And then I think with the Troll coming out and I think people just playing more Magic, and Candy Grapple coming out is a big deal for this deck. Every single creature. It's playing 4 Cast Down, Tragic Slift, Snuff Outs. Snuff Out is another major card in the format, by the way. That is a legacy card. Legal in Legacy Light, as we like to call Pauper
Legacy Light
here.
Yep.
So Snuff Out is this insane card that's 3 and a black instant. If you control a swamp, you may pay 4 life rather than pay Snuff Out's mana cost, and you destroy target non-black creature and it can't be regenerated. So this is incredibly powerful.
Incredibly good.
This is a free kill spell, people. That is incredibly powerful, especially in a format like this. And then its main win con is this funny little card called Avenging Hunter. And this little goofball is a 5 mana 5/4 trampler that takes the initiative when it comes into play. Mitchell, do you want to explain the initiative? Because I know you know it better than I do.
The initiative is a crazy mechanic. It's very reminiscent of
Monarch.
The Monarch. The mechanic itself. So you get the initiative. Only one player at a time can have the initiative. The initiative has the following ability. Whenever you take the initiative at the beginning of your upkeep, you venture into the Undercity, which is a dungeon. The Undercity has many rooms.
The main ones that matter, though, is you get a basic land the first time, which is just good.
Second time you get 2/1/1
2/1/1s,
counters.
which on a 5/4 trampler,
or you get the Scry 2, which really isn't what
you
do.
In the Golgari deck, you're never going to go that route.
Usually you go Secret Entrance, Forge.
He goes Trap, Archives, and then you get the Throne. But
so Forge is put 2/1/1 counters to target creature. Trap is target player loses 5 life. Archives is draw 1 card. And Throne of the Dead 3 is the last one. Read the top 10 cards of your library, put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield with 3/1/1 counters. It gains hexproof until your next turn. Then shuffle. This dungeon is insane, and they introduced it. They immediately banned Aarakocra Sneak. That is the blue 3 and a blue initiative card.
There was a lot of initiative cards in a lot of formats that got banned.
They got banned almost immediately.
Because there was a lot of decks that got created where the whole goal was to just take the initiative as fast as possible and never give it back. And that is more than enough to win a Magic game.
Yep.
It is
insane.
Very powerful. It is a ton of advantage very fast.
The only ones left are green and white, is what the guy said at the shop.
Yeah.
Which
Avenging Hunter is the only one that gets played. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And it's very powerful. I mean, a 5/4 trampler alone is strong for 5.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then you get
counters,
2/1/1 counters, you make them lose 5 life. That is a pardon my language, a shit ton of
it is so much
shit
value.
ton of pressure and value. And that's exactly what my deck does not want to see.
Yeah.
So game 1, he got a turn 5 Avenging Hunter, and I don't know how I did it, but with like a Murmuring Mystic and a few Thopters and a Kenku,
he got through.
He hit me all the way down to 5, and then I went hit him back, take the initiative back, drain him for 5, win the game.
That's crazy.
He couldn't find a kill spell to save his life, so I win game 1. You're kind of on a it should never win that game, by the way.
Nope.
If he just finds a kill spell, I lose. But anyway, I steal a game from him. We go to game 2. Game 2, oh man, I don't even remember how Game 2 went, but I lost.
You lost?
I lost because we went to 3 and you watched Game 3.
Oh, I watched Game 3 and that was tragic.
We'll get there. Game 2, I don't really remember what happened. I think I just kind of got outgrinded. I know that at one point I went into a Kenku. I know my hand was like really slow. Like it was a lot of reactive cards because I was trying to react to him, but like we both were because we're both control decks, so it was really awkward. We were just like drawing and passing. I was like preordaining, draw, pass. And then I eventually decided to take the initiative and I tried to get a Kenku in. I got one swing in, and then he went cast down the Kenku, Chainer's Edict, which sacrifices a creature, not kill a creature, so it gets around the 3/3 Indestructible. Killed my Indestructible, killed my land, which was really bad. And then he played the initiative guy right after, and just kind of blew me up. So I lost Game 2. That was really tough.
We mentioned it before, but Chainer's Edict is one of
it's
arguably
a black staple, and black is one of the best colors in Pauper.
So Chainer's Edict reads 1 and a black sorcery. Target player sacks a creature, and then it's flashback for 5 black. It gets around indestructible lands.
It gets around Bogles. Gets around a whole lot of things. It's just
very
a very
important to the
good
format.
card to have in a back pocket.
Yep.
And then Game 3, I'm gonna let Mitch explain Game 3.
Game 3.
I'll explain my opening hand because you didn't see my opening hand. So my opening hand was 4 lands, a Muldrifter, an Ephemerate, and a Scred.
Didn't you put some away though?
Yeah, I did bottom 2. I bottom 2 lands because I had the Lorian's revealed too.
Right.
But I was like, I looked at my hand. I was not gonna go to 4. Like I just lose if I go to 4. Like there's no way. So I kept a bad 5. I mean, you're going to 5. Like you can't be picky. You see more than 2 land or more than 1 land, you have to keep. So it was not good. So I went down to like land, Scred, Muldrifter.
Yeah,
it was not
something
good.
like that.
And then Mitch can tell you what I proceeded to top deck for the next like 6 turns.
So basically, 6 turns in a row, he drew lands one after another, and he cleansing wildfires. After that,
still found lands.
He still found lands. Then at one point, he had played Scred to remove a creature. The next turn, his top deck was Scred.
Yeah,
and then that's when I was like, "There's no chance."
And then the turn I top decked that Scred, he had just played the initiative Avenging Hunter, and I did not have enough snow lands to kill that thing, not even close.
Not even close.
And so I just got blown out. And this is something that I want to talk about that I think is really important when you play card games. And me and Mitch have played card games long enough, even though we're pretty young. You are going to brick, whether you like it or not, and you're going to brick in big moments. Like, that was, like, don't get me wrong, this was not a big moment. This was a local night. We were both 0-2. There was nothing on the line. But I have had tournament losing bricks. Like, I literally was, my first regional ever for Pokemon was Milwaukee last year. And I was playing Noah Yoshida, who is a top player in the world. And we were both at 3-2-1. A very healthy record to make day 2, because in Pokemon, you have to get to 6-2-1 to make day 2. 6 wins, 2 losses, and a draw. I was at 3-2-1, which is pretty freaking good, and I played a lot of really good players. And I hit Noah Yoshida. I took him to game 3. He had like the worst possible start for me. He had Path turn 1 playing against, and I was playing Mew, which is like, that just shuts my deck down.
Yep.
I had the counter the stadium. I had a full bench of Genesects to draw my whole deck. All I had to do was find an Elsa Spark, and I blow up his Unbelieving Pelkey and play turn 1, and I just win the game. And I proceeded to prize all 3 of my Elsa Sparkles and lose the game. That's not a joke. And it happens. And I lose game 3, and I proceed to scrub out of day 2, or scrub out of day 1, and I finish 5-3-1, which is a win short of day 2.
That's so tough.
And let me tell you, it happens. For a long time, that was really where I learned, where it's like, for a long time, I was really upset about it. I'm not going to lie, I was very upset about it. I was really, really upset, because I was like, man, my first regional, I had a chance at day 2, and I get screwed like that. But something that I've been trying to do a lot better at, because I'm so competitive, dude. I was a 4-sport athlete growing up my whole life. Competitiveness is what I do. Okay? Like, legit. Like, I love to compete. I don't care what it is. Like, everything I get into, I love watching the competitive level of it. Whether it's chess, whether it's video games, whether it's card games, like, whatever. I like watching the highest levels of it. I just love watching competition. I love competing, and I love watching competition.
Yep.
But one thing that I've really tried to take away from my favorite Magic player of all time, Reed Duke, who I'm sure needs no introduction, one of the greatest to ever do it, and one of the nicest guys you will ever freaking see.
Yep.
He is just the most down-to-earth, kind dude, and he just wins. He topped 8 Worlds last weekend, lost in top 8 in a very unfortunate way. He got reverse swept, and he wasn't upset. He was joking around the whole time with his opponent, who was Anthony Lee, who's another super gentleman, just gentleman. Great player and a gentleman. He lost a good matchup for him in a really rough way. He got reverse swept. It was really tough. And he was still smiling. He was still, like, something you have to understand when you play card games is there's always going to be a level of variance to it. No matter how good you are, no matter how well you play, there's a level of variance to it, and you have to accept that. And
it's hard to take a loss, but you need to take the losses with grace.
You have to take it with grace because at the end of the day, we're all doing this because we love to play cards and we love to hang out and like do what we do. And it is so much worse to lose and ruin that experience for your opponent than it is to lose with grace. It's just a maturity thing. It's a humble thing. It's you're going to lose. Like, none of us are Reed Duke. None of us are, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to win every tournament. You're not going to win every match. Like, not even Reed Duke. Not even the best in the world do. In fact, one of the greatest players of all time in Magic, Willie Adele, a great Brazilian player, a mentor to many great players. He has 5 now after Worlds top finishes since 1997. Think about that for a second. That's 26 years of competing. He has 5 Pro Tour top finishes. That is, like, listen. That is very impressive. Like, that's a lot. Like, I'm not. That is a lot. But think about it. That's 5 and 26 years. That's a lot of tries. It's a lot of tries, which means there's a lot of losing, and you got to be able to take that. That is cards, man.
You have to lose and improve.
You have to lose and improve. Like, that is how it is. And tonight I lost, and I'm going to hopefully improve. I learned a lot tonight.
Build upon it. Move forward.
I understand a lot more about different matchups that I've never gotten to play before, and like everyone was super nice, and I still had a great time. Like, that, at the end of the day, you have to have a good time. Like, something I realized with Pokemon was like, I was taking it so seriously, and I was getting so upset, and I wasn't enjoying it anymore, so I stopped. And I've kind of, because I was losing love in card games, dude. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I was like, dude, why am I even playing these anymore? Like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? Like, I was just so burnt out and upset, and like, Mitch revived my soul by saying, "Let's play Pauper, dude."
Let's play
and
Pauper.
We played Pauper all summer. Whenever we got
played
off work.
it all summer.
All summer, and I had such a blast. And so, I guess the moral of the lesson, I've gone on a huge rant. Just enjoy the games, man, and understand like it is what it is. That's my saying. It is what it is.
At the end of the day, we're just playing made-up rules.
At the end of the day, we're playing a fake game with cardboard, and it's not that deep.
Listen, Manicure doesn't need to be $200, so
but it is.
You can just send it to us in the mail. But
yeah, so like my address. No, I'm just playing. I'm just playing. But anyway, let's let Mitch talk. At the end of the day,
cardboard's cardboard. You know.
Yeah, let's let Mitch talk about his Pauper experience tonight.
So tonight I played Esper Affinity. There's a little bit different meta right now. People like to play Azorius Affinity, which I think is probably more correct than what I'm doing, but at the same time, Deadly Dispute and Reckoner's Bargain are so irreplaceable in my deck, and I need them
to
keep
stuff like
moving
Cast
forward.
Down and stuff like that.
Yep.
That stuff matters.
I played Cast Down. I played Chainer's Edict, which we already talked about.
You definitely
Huge
should be
format
playing
staple.
Snuff out. You need to get
I don't
Snuff
control
out.
swamps.
Oh, you're right.
Yep,
That's
all
such a
artifact
bummer,
lands.
dude.
So the premise of the deck is you play Ornithopter or Gingerbrute, so a lot of evasive threats, and then you basically just
glitters it,
play
man.
all that glitters the deck.
Yeah, so Affinity, let's talk about, because like Affinity went from, like Grixis Affinity was the only Affinity before all that glitters came
and it was super
and
grindy, it was control,
mid-range, it was a grindy mid-range deck. I wouldn't say it's control. It was just a grindy mid-range deck. It wasn't control. It just played counter magic because everything plays counter magic in blue. But all that glitters to me is like these Azorius all that glitter builds are true like combo decks.
It is the artifact combo deck. My specific list, I played some very niche cards. I played.
But that's your thing, Mitch. You got to explain that to them. You love playing.
I do love niche cards. Like
I'm a Spike. I'm gonna try to play whatever's optimal. But you like to have fun.
I played Muddle the Mixture, which turned out to win me the game.
I just think Muddle the Mixture
multiple
is very good
sets.
In that deck. So let's explain Muddle the Mixture.
Muddle the Mixture has some very important text on it. It says Transmute. So Muddle the Mixture is a blue counterspell. It says instant, counter target instant or sorcery spell, and then it says Transmute for 1 blue. At sorcery speed, 1 blue, discard this card, search your library for a card with the same CMC as this card, reveal it, put it in your hand. So
the big thing to note with that
it's very important.
You pay 3 to transmute, but you're not finding a 3-drop because Muddle the Mixture CMC is a 2.
CMC is 2.
So you are looking for 2 drops, which is all that glitters. You can grab my other tech, which was Ichor Claw, which is the Infect 1/1. When it gets blocked, it gets +2/+2. It is so good for life gain decks. Yeah. You can search. I went Ornithopter, all that glitters, and then my opponent went to remove my all that glitters, and I said, okay, I'm gonna go transmute, go grab another one, attach it, swing. Brutal.
And he basically picked up his cards and said, good game.
Listen, man, all that glitters is a game-winning card.
It
just is. You cannot let that thing resolve by whether you have to kill the creature, counter it, do something, man. Don't let that thing resolve. It is going to kill you.
It is insane.
And it's going to kill you fast.
Some other really important cards in the deck are cards like Turnicide, 1 blue instant, counter target spell that targets a permanent you control. it not only gets rid of the removal that targets your artifacts, like all the exile stuff, Dust to Dust. What's the red one? Casting Fire. That's another really important one. But Turn Aside says, counter target spell that targets the permanent you control, and it's only 1 blue, and that's so accessible and so easy to hold up in this deck. It's very important. But the deck is basically all that glitters dot deck, and you need ways to search or draw the cards.
And you just play a bunch of value.
You play value like
counter magic.
You play Blood Fountain to make blood tokens. That's 2-for-1 artifact. You play cards like Ichor Wellspring with Deadly Dispute, so you'll be drawing 3 cards for 3 mana, kind of. The deck is so insane. It's very fun to play. It's not my favorite deck of all time.
Madness, baby.
I do love myself Madness. So Madness is another deck in this format. Well, I can just talk about it.
You know all the cards. Come on.
So
you play that matchup all the time.
Oh yeah,
you know.
You get cards like Faithless Looting, draw 2, then discard 2. Very important.
Well, first you should explain what Madness is, because not everybody might know what Madness is.
Madness is a keyword. When you discard a card that says Madness on it, you can pay it for its cost as you're discarding it. If you do, you get it for the retail.
It's a cheaper card.
It's a cheaper card
it's
because you're discarding it.
If any of you have ever played COD Zombies, it's fire sale. Okay, this man's just fire sailing all over the place.
You fire sale everything. So there's a 2/2 flyer with haste for 3 and a black, or for Madness it's just 1 black. That's
very good.
So good.
Very good.
Blood Fountain is very key in this deck too, because you can get old creatures back out of the graveyard, and you get bloods.
Epicure as well.
Epicure, it's a 1-drop of red, 1/1. When it enters, you deal 1 damage to your opponent. You get a blood token. Blood tokens are they're like the thing you need to make the deck work. Otherwise, it doesn't really work. Like you get cards like Thrill Possibility, Bone Shards, Faithless Looting, and those are good and all.
The bloods are what keep the engine going.
You can do blood at instant speed, which you can do thrill at instant speed, but like when you go to cast, you have no blockers, and then you have bloods sitting, and someone swings with like a 2/2 or bigger, you just go sack, crack, you draw a card, you play an imp for 1 mana, or 2 mana if you crack the blood.
Yeah.
Like it's...
Well, and
it's so good to
another thing that's
blockers.
Really important too is like you can break the timing rules with Madness.
Yep, you can play
like with that imp,
everything.
With that imp, if you go like instant speed thrill possibility, if you discard an imp, you can still play it even though it's not your turn because you're discarding it and paying an alternative casting cost. It doesn't have to follow the casting rules, which is really good, super good.
Other key cards in that deck are like Alms of the Vein, Fiery Temper, Sign in Blood. You just burn your opponent out of the game.
Yeah, it's like a very it's like semi-burn, semi-aggro like creature, and it's just like goes really hard, really fast, and you just have to try to slow down the engine as much as you can.
It's very important.
It's a very fun deck, very cool deck. I've played Mitchell's List. It's a lot of fun. It's like you just do so many cool things with it. Like there's just so many little neat corner cases you get into that are super fun, and those are the things I love about Magic.
Yes. Anyways, back to the deck I was playing. Affinity. Round 1, I unfortunately got the bye. I'm saying unfortunately because I wanted to get games in. This is our first time going to
the whole point was us going there was to get games.
Get games in and get different local meta and to
like different
gather
players,
data.
So different.
I got the bye round 1, and then round 2, I played one of our players that we brought. So I played Boros Synthesizer that Ying played. I kept a 1-land hand round 1. Shouldn't have done that. I was doing it for a meme.
Shouldn't have let him, man.
Shouldn't have let him.
Shouldn't let Yang bully us like this, dude. He's too new to the format. We can't let him be the 3-0. Come on.
But he is.
Because he's just built different.
He's just built different. Anyways, it was a 2-0 sweep. It wasn't even. I mean, like game 2, I put up more of a fight, but like it wasn't really a fight.
That synth deck, man.
That synth is so good.
Tough.
We're gonna have to get Yang on to talk about his synth deck.
Yeah, we'll bring Yang onto the show for sure.
But like my round 3, I played against the Ulamog's Crusher deck, which is basically you play all the Tron lands, get as much mana as you can, as fast as you can. You play a lot of.
So for those of you who don't know what Tron is, a set of lands. They're Urza lands. So there's Urza's Power Plant, Urza's Tower, and Urza's Mine, and you have one of each. Instead of them tapping for one colorless, they all tap for a different amount. So Urza's Mine will tap for 3, Tower will tap for 3, and then I think Plant taps for 2. So you make, for 3 lands, you make 7 mana, but only if you have all 3.
Yep.
So the whole goal of the deck is you play a bunch of ways to get out those lands, or like find those lands.
Yep, crop rotation, expedition
map.
Yep.
You play a bunch of like cantrip and stuff like the spears and the stars to try to get you into it. And your whole goal is to just try to get turn through Tron,
You try to get Tron and then drop Ulamog's Crusher.
And then you drop Ulamog's Crusher as fast as you can, and you just go hard, man. You play Maelstrom Colossus too is like another bomb, I guess. It's just I don't know.
I think that's a little more niche. No.
No, it's pretty good. It's just Cascade. It's a 7/7 for 8 with Cascade.
That seems good.
Yeah. So like it has some bombs for sure, but I think the problem with it is like again what we were talking about, like it just doesn't have the bombs that it does in Modern. Like when they get Tron in Modern, they're winning the game. End of story. It's pretty much. I mean, there are certain decks that can just like outgrind them and like stay alive, but like most of the time they're just gonna win.
Yep.
Like, but in this format, like in Pauper, like they don't have the bombs that they do in Modern.
They have no finishers.
And they also don't have the consistency that they do. Like, don't get me wrong, they still have a lot of ways to find it, and a lot of ways that you play them in Modern. Like, you still have map, you still have stirrings, you still have crop rotation, but like it's just not the same, man. It's just not as powerful.
It's not the same.
And it's. Yeah, I don't know. It's. I was very surprised, to be honest, to be seeing Tron. Like, I knew it existed in the format, but based on all the metadata, it is like a tier 3 deck. It is not a high.
It is not high at all.
It's not played very much, and it doesn't usually do super well. It's very inconsistent. It has a lot of issues because it's like, you resolve an 8/8 with 9 layer 2. Cool, I'll just cast down it, or I'll counterspell it. Like, there's just no. They don't have a lot of ways to protect it or like get around interaction in this format. Like in Modern, you have way more ways to get around it. Like, there's just not a lot of ways to do that here.
Yeah. So in my round 3, I ended up going second in game 1. I basically just went Ornithopter, all that glitters, win the game. Like, it was like a turn,
pick up your cards.
Turn 5 kill. It wasn't even close. Game 2, I went second again. I played Frogmite. I all that glitters. I went and molded the mixture for another all that glitters. I had Ichor Clawmer in my hand. I played it.
Oh my god.
I went Frogmite, all that glitters twice on it. Then I played an Ichor Clawmer, and the guy looked at me and he was just like, "What are we doing? Like, I'm packing up."
Yeah.
It was the Azorius deck, Esper. It's Esper. My build's Esper. The Azorius is like the
major, like
it's the combo.
Yeah, way more combo oriented.
But my Esper deck is a lot more value, and like it does go fast, and don't get me wrong, but there's definitely a lot more control pieces or like reactionary pieces that make the deck a whole lot more hard to interact with.
Yeah.
Like when someone goes counterspell your all that glitters, I go, okay, I counterspell you back. Yeah. Like it doesn't matter at the end of the day.
Even if you get through all that and then you go, oh, I'll try to kill a creature, turn aside, get bodied.
Yep, and then it's like, I'll play Mirror Enforcer for 0. It's a 7 mana 4/4.
Yeah, okay, this kid, hold on. This kid, while we were warming up and we were just like trying to get games in, this kid went, turn 3, turn 4, triple Mirror Enforcer?
Yep.
And I was just like, what the heck, man? Like, what are we doing? Like, this is a joke. What are we doing? I just picked up my cards. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Yep.
Like,
Mirror Enforcer is such an insane card, and the fact that Reckoner's Bargain says sack that permanent, you gain life equal to its CMC, then draw 2.
Bodies burn,
you play it for 0, gain 7, draw 2 if they try to remove it.
Yep.
Like, it is such an insane combo.
And it just absolutely decimates.
And not to mention, Deadly Dispute is such an insane card.
Yeah, Deadly Dispute,
any
man,
format.
is just an incredibly good card. Like,
they should, honestly, it shouldn't be Pauper legal, but it is, and I'm so happy that it is.
It's a very good card, man. It's a very, very, very
my favorite piles are things that go Ichor Wellspring, Deadly Dispute, draw.
Ancestral Recall, dog. What you mean? Yeah. This is 2 combo Ancestral Recall.
It's so good. It's so much fun.
Sorta. Not exactly.
Not exactly, but it's still pretty
close enough.
It is very
in Pauper, close enough.
Yep. It's close as you're gonna get. I mean, to be honest, we've played all of my decks against each other. I think Grixis probably is a better long-term matchup compared to combo. But combo absolutely. Can just go off.
But the combo deck is just so much more explosive, and it's just so much. In my opinion, I think it's way better. Just because of the sheer explosiveness you have. But again, you still, especially with the Esper build, you still have a lot of longevity between all of the mirrors and all of the card draw you get, and it's tough. It's very tough. But anyway,
we kind of recapped pretty well on all the matches we played.
Pretty much everything. Yang played against Grixis Affinity.
Yeah.
He beat that, obviously. He beat you round 2.
There's a lot of sketchy things that player was kind of doing, but we won't get into that.
That's we'll have an episode where we just talk about game etiquette and game stuff.
Yes, for sure.
Because I know that's a hot topic that me and Mitch care about a lot.
Oh yeah, it's very important. But like the Grixis Affinity deck is very it's grindy. You need to be able to rely on your Kenku artificers to make lands animate and swing.
The fact that guy had 5 lands animated and wasn't swinging, I just don't understand. I'll never understand.
It's not a big deal. But like at the end of the day, you want to be able to animate lands. You want to swing them. You want to be able to kill your opponent relatively fast, and be able to counter their threats or destroy their threats as they play.
To me, the Grixis build is a tempo deck.
It kind of seems like it, yeah.
Not like the traditional tempo deck where it's trying to kill you really fast, but it has like a backup plan. Like this thing is just like, okay, I'm gonna grind you out until mid game, and then all of a sudden I'm just gonna put a bunch of bombs out and deal with me. Like whether it's makeshift munitions or
makeshift munitions,
Kenku, it's like I'm just gonna 1-for-1 with you for a while. Like I'm just gonna get some card draw. I'm gonna kill your stuff, whatever, counter some stuff, and then I'm just gonna pop off. Like I'm just gonna the second I see a window, I'm gonna pop off.
Yep.
And which I know what you're thinking is like, isn't that just Azorius? Azorius just does it way faster.
Azorius does it like
so much faster.
So much. It's insane.
Like that deck can
probably combo. You're doing what you do in Azorius on probably like turn 5 or 6.
I wonder what's the fastest you can kill someone with Azorius Affinity. It's got to be like turn 3.
I think it's like turn 3.
Yeah, I think you can turn 3 kill people.
Because you can go Ginger Root, all that glitters. Well, it depends if you have Lotus Petal. That's a different story, though.
Yeah, it depends on what build you're playing. Or like if you have Springly Anyway, it doesn't matter. But that deck is extremely... I think it's the most explosive deck in the format.
It is very explosive.
Easily. Not even close. It's like not even close.
There's other very important decks in the format that we haven't really touched, like Mono Blue.
It's pretty much the Fairies deck, except for you don't have this Fairy synergies. Like
there's the Turbo Terror Terror build.
There's a bunch in
where
Pauper,
you're doing like Thought Scour, Mental Note, where you're milling as many instant sorceries as you can.
Another card we have yet to mention
Talarian Terror.
Dude, another card we have forgotten to mention that's a staple is Grimog Angler. That card
oh my god, we haven't mentioned Grimog.
For those of you Legacy players, you know what this card is because it's played a lot. Well, maybe not as much as it used to, but Grimog Angler is a 7-drop 5/5, which I know you said sounds awful. Except for it has this funny little keyword called Delve. So how Delve works is you exile a card from your graveyard, and you can do this as many times as you want to pay for 1 colorless.
Yep.
So if you exile 6 cards from your graveyard, you play a 1-drop 5/5.
Yep.
Very powerful.
It is so insanely
powerful. Super good. Super good. That is a big deal. And then Terror is like the same thing. Instead of having to delve cards, though, it just costs 1 less for each instant sorcery card in your graveyard, which is super good. And it has Ward too, so it's just a better angler. But it's in blue.
And then recently there was a new downshift that is insanely similar to Talarian Terror. It's a 5 blue 6/5. It costs 1 less to cast for each instant sorcery in your graveyard. Very similar. It gives the deck a lot of redundancy, so you can play 4 Mental Notes, draw a card, mill 2, Thought Scour. You can play Delver if you're Delver of Secrets. If you guys don't know what that is, 1 blue 1/1. Reveal the top card of your library. If it's instant or sorcery, flip it. It becomes a flying 3/2.
Very powerful.
Insane card. 1 mana, 3/2 flyer. Insane card.
Very powerful, a very fast clock.
These 3 cards are very fast. Especially if you play the Mental Note version, which is
the turbo build.
Which is the turbo build.
You're just like turboing out your graveyard to play your Grimog Angler.
It's very good.
Yeah. So again, like we've been saying, like there's just a lot of like incremental value. That's what matters in Pauper. Yep. Incremental value.
A lot of small value that adds up over time is the name of the game.
Yep. And I think that's a super fun format.
I think it's very fun.
I think it's way more interesting than like a Modern or a Legacy where it's like I'm just gonna spew out all these super powerful cards and try to like 2-for-1. Like in Legacy, it's like your opening hand just makes or breaks the game. Where it's like in Pauper, that is not the case. Like you're gonna have way more time to set up. You're gonna have a lot more interaction. You're gonna have a lot more time to set up whatever you're trying to set up. So there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do in Pauper that you can't really get away with in a lot of other formats because the other formats are too fast.
Yeah.
So if you like more like classic style Magic.
Classic Magic. Where
Pauper
there's
no Planeswalkers, guys. There's no Planeswalkers.
No Planeswalkers because we don't have uncommon cards.
Nope. And Planeswalkers are broken. So, and listen, I'm a Planeswalker guy. I have a Boros Planeswalker Commander deck. It's one of my favorite decks of all time. We'll talk about that at some point. But I think it's healthy for the format. I don't think Planeswalkers are healthy in one-on-one formats at all.
There's a lot of other really niche decks in the format. Like there's Elves Tribal, which is like Priest of Titania.
We have to talk about Kelvin's Wall deck.
There's a Walls combo deck.
There's a 5-color Walls combo deck that plays 11 force, guys. It's crazy. We'll talk about it.
We'll get him on and he can talk about it.
It's so goofy.
There's the Rakdos deck. There's Mono Black Control or like Mono Black Aggro.
Yeah. There's a lot of different...
Orzhov Ephemerate Weird Control. Like
yeah, that deck's a more niche one.
That
one
one's
looks
very
really
niche.
Fun. There's a lot of like...
There's that Goblin deck we saw tonight.
Well, that's just a meme. That's
That
not
deck's
real.
very funny.
There's Boggles. Boggles exists.
Boggles, yep, it's here.
If you don't know what Boggles is the whole point of Boggles is you play a 1/1 hexproof 1/1, and then you just stuff as many of the best auras you can on it, and then you just kill your opponent. It's like Burn, but fancy.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Anyway, but yeah,
there's a lot.
Basically, there's a deck for every kind of playstyle, really, and I can't say that about a lot of formats. There's a ton of different things you can do. There's white weenies. We haven't talked about white weenies.
No.
That's just a staple of every format, dude.
There's Coggates, which is...
super cool.
That is its own thing. It's crazy.
You just play a bunch of pump lands, and then you pump stupid creatures that have invasion. It's awesome.
There's so many niche techs that really don't see play anywhere else because this format...
Lose focus.
Lose focus is so much... there's just so many niche techs because...
There's just so much more room for creativity.
There's so much room for cards.
There's just so much room for creativity because the power level is so much lower.
It's so much lower, and I feel like the format, as much as it's, like, discovered and, like, broken...
I don't think it is.
I don't think it's broken
Guys,
as much as we think
I don't think
is.
it's solved. I don't think it's solved.
No, we can definitely break it.
I'm going to break Pauper. Me and Mitch are going to break Pauper. For y'all. So you don't have to.
We've been brewing up some things.
Dude, listen. Do you know how many nights I just stay up and thinking about how the fuck can I break this format, okay? It's a lot. It's every night.
Bro,
I'm an insomniac. I have nothing better to do with my time, okay?
We look at Mirkwood bats and we go,
Listen, man, on the way back, because we have about an hour drive to that locals, we were trying to brew some Mirkwood bats shenanigans. If you don't know what Mirkwood bats is, that's a new Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah, yep.
New Lord of the Rings common.
3 and a
It's
black.
3 and a black. It's a bat.
It's a
It's
bat.
like a what, 2/2 bat?
I think it's a flying...
Flying 2/2 bat, I think, right? But anyway, what matters is whenever a token enters or leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses
Oh,
one
it's a
life.
flying 2/3 bat. Whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each player loses 1 life.
We're going to break that card.
Let's talk about treasure tokens for a second.
You know I love me some treasures.
That's them losing 2 life.
Yep.
Crazy.
So,
That's so
we're
good.
going to try to break that card. Don't worry about it to do, boys. We've got some brewing to do.
There's so many different combos and many different cards. There's a ton of cards that aren't banned that should be. Well, okay. Well, let's talk about this. We have Counterspell, Brainstorm.
Whoa,
Oh no, I'm not saying it
whoa,
should be banned.
whoa,
I'm just listing good cards.
Relax.
Counterspell, Brainstorm.
Lightning Bolt.
We got Lightning Bolt. We got Dark Ritual. What are we doing, guys?
We have Ashnod Altar.
Oh, Ashnod's Altar.
I found out
Lotus
that was legal
Petal.
tonight. Lotus Petals.
Oh, let's talk about One Land Spy for a hot second.
One Land Spy. The most notorious deck in Pauper.
People were talking about this tonight. We were talking to a guy, and he seems like he loves.
If you want to play, this is the
niche
most
decks.
expensive deck in Pauper because you play a legacy deck in Pauper. So there's a funny little card called what is it? Belstrade Spy.
Balustrade Spy.
Belstrade Spy. Apologies. It is a 4-drop for one black and 3, a 2/3 flyer, and when it enters the battlefield, target player reveal cards from the top of their library until they reveal a land card. You play 1 land in this deck and a bunch of ways to search it out, so that way you can just graveyard your whole deck, and then you have an infinite combo out of your graveyard.
Yep.
That's the whole point.
That is the whole point of the deck.
And it's really cool. And you play a bunch of
play a ton
Dark
of-
Ritual, Song of the Damned, Cabal Ritual. You just play Metamorpho. You just play a bunch of the make a bunch of mana really fast, and then you spy, and then you just combo out.
I mean, this format has Lotus Petal,
I believe,
which I think is crazy.
Yeah, that's so nuts to me. That's a legacy staple, dude. That's crazy.
Yep.
Anyway, this deck is super cool because this deck can win turn 3.
Yep.
It is the fastest combo in Pauper, from my knowledge.
I mean,
but it's also
I
the
can't
most,
think of a faster one.
Yeah, and it's also the most volatile because.
Oh yeah, if you get anything countered,
there's no counter magic. There's no if they exile your graveyard,
you're screwed.
It's super cool and super fun. The deck costs a casual $145, which is way higher than the average Pauper. It's triple average Pauper is like about 50 to 60.
Yeah.
Depending on what you build and if you play snuff outs, because those are expensive.
Those are expensive.
But it's a super good card.
Mental Note's also like $5 a piece. So is Lorian's Revealed. $5 a piece.
Well, that was recently because Mitch is a bum and
they're
didn't
both
get his
going
Lorien
up.
revealed. But I think next episode we'll go more in depth about Wilds of Eldraine and specifically how it fits into Pauper and how it changes Pauper.
Yeah.
I think we should also talk about Commander Masters because that really made.
Yeah, we can probably we can lump those into one. We can do
we'll
a small catch up.
We'll do a small catch up.
Commander Masters into we can do lore.
We already kind of talked about all the lore cards though.
The ones that are impactful.
Yeah, the ones that matter.
Yeah, then we can talk about Commander Masters.
It's really just all the cyclers.
We can talk about Wilds of Eldraine. Yeah.
So yeah, thank you everybody for listening. We're sorry if this was scuffed. This is our first time, so cut us some slack. Expect tangents. I'm not apologizing for those.
There's going to be a lot of tangents and rants. We're all about it.
Don't lie. You know that's the best part about podcasts is people going on tangents, okay? I know you love tangents, okay? Yeah. But thank you for tuning in. Please, share around with your friends. If you know guys that or people that want to play Pauper, please show them the podcast. Let them, hang out, whatever.
And also, if this might be on YouTube. If it's on Spotify, sick.
We'll get there.
We'll get there if we get there
eventually. But for now, YouTube.
Yeah, we're gonna try posting it.
So yeah, subscribe to the channel. What do YouTubers say? Click that notification bell. Like and subscribe. Comment that all the bands should be glittered. Or that's how you know it's late at night. Make sure comment that all that glitter needs to be banned. Let me hear your band hammers in the comments.
My band hammer is called.
That should be we should have a
band hammer.
A band hammer section where we just talk about cards that need to be banned. Band hammer.
Well, I mean,
we gotta get a gavel in too, so we can smack it whenever we talk about a card.
Hey man, you want to talk about some bummers today?
Yeah, let's talk some bummers. Let's end on some bummers, and then we'll end on a high note.
Yeah,
something good.
Bummer, I got the bye.
Bummer, I went 0-3.
Oh, that is a bummer. Sorry for you, buddy.
It is what it is.
Some not so bummers. We played a lot of fun games of Magic.
Not so bummer. We finally started this podcast.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Been talking about it.
Been meaning to do it. So we appreciate everyone who's given this a listen, if anybody.
Hey, one thing's for sure. At least Alex will listen to this for at least 5 minutes.
Hey, that's how
if he hears this at the end of the episode,
Alex, if you've made it this far, I love you and I appreciate you. All right, we'll end it here. We've been talking for a long time. Yeah. Thank you guys.
All right, you guys have a great night.
We don't know when we'll tune back in, but we'll be back.
We will be back. Probably next week-ish.
Yeah. Thank you all. Have a good night.
All right, have a good night.